stand up and speak out and even go over the fence at nuclear missile silos and say, no, sir, no, ma'am, there will not be a nuclear war on my watch, because I beg to differ, and I personally, in person, with my life, I vote against it. Unless we reach that point, you know what? Bad things can happen.
Absolutely.
And they will happen. They will happen because we've given our power away. And how do you reclaim your power? By standing up and publicly saying, I'm taking my power back. I am a sovereign human being. What I say, what I do matters as much as anyone else. And therefore, I act on my own sovereign authority. I don't want a nuclear war to occur. Therefore, I have come here to publicly and nonviolently vote against it. So the White Rose movement is fiercely courageous. It is nonviolent. It doesn't support war. White Rose movement is willing to take great risk for great gains. If we as a species are going to make great gains, you know what? You don't get something for nothing. You follow me?
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Your achievements are in proportion to your efforts. So if you're not putting forth an effort, nothing's going to happen. If you want good things to happen, then you have to do good things.
We definitely need more people that are not acting out of ignorance and fear and anger, but we also need more people that are awakened, enlightened beings who are in unified consciousness, who are on the same page. And
well, that's the key thing.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of room. There's plenty of room for maneuver. I talk about the White Rose in the last page or two of the Richard Sauder briefing. One of the things that I see the White Rose movement doing, and by the way, there was a group of Roman Catholic activists, anti-war activists, who went out to the Creech Air Force Base in Nevada last year, and that's the Air Force Base from which they pilot the Predator drones in Afghanistan and Pakistan. They pilot them from there, and they kill people in Afghanistan and Pakistan. So these drones are remotely piloted from this Creech Air Force Base in Nevada, and the drones killed hundreds, maybe thousands of people. Many of them just innocent bystanders who had nothing to do with anything other than they got in the way of the American military machine at the wrong time on the wrong day, and so they were blasted to smithereens. Well, this group went out and committed civil disobedience at Creech Air Force Base last year in the name of the White Rose. So my activity is not the only activity in recent years in the United States in the name of the White Rose. And I'm telling you, we can profitably draw inspiration from these young Germans and their great courage in World War II and apply it in our day. The White Rose exists to this day. I'm not the only person acting in the spirit of the White Rose. Anyone can. You know, I took a bouquet of 36 white roses and set it out right by the nuclear missile silo when I went. And when the Air Force showed up, they just threw the white roses on the ground. Well, you see, their agenda is not beauty and aesthetically pleasing things.
Right.
Their agenda is death and destruction.
Yeah.
So they don't want no stinking beauty. That's a nuclear missile silo.
Yeah.
It's designed to kill millions of people, and that's it. It's not beautified in any way. It's starkly utilitarian. It is a genocidal weapon facility. End of story. Well, I took some white roses, in essence, to tell the United States military, number one, remember what happened in Nazi Germany? Those young people the Nazis killed and sent to prison and tortured. Well, you know what? I read history, and I know what they did, and I know that there's a fascist or a neo-fascist regime in this country now, and you know what? Just like those young Germans that were killed and tortured and jailed over half a century ago, I agree with them in what they did. And in our day, in our time, in our society, we're also faced with a government and a military machine that are running amok. They're berserk. They've lost their minds. God help them.
Yep.
And we need to help them. And we need to take We need to take bouquets of white roses to these people and say, the white rose movement is here to help you find your mind and find your heart. You have a human heart. You've lost touch with your heart. We're here to help you get in touch with your heart. You know what? War is a dead end. It's a dead end. The only way for us to stop this warring is to turn to nonviolence. And the way you do that is you go out with a bouquet of white roses and you say, you know what? I have a different plan, a different idea. I and my friends do. There's a different way. We don't have to slaughter each other. We don't have to have this tremendously oppressive, enslaving economic system. We don't have to trash the world's ecosystems and ecology. There's an entirely different path we can take, the white rose path, the white rose movement, and that's what I'm advocating on.
Well, of course, the movie Avatar stated visually that what's happening beautifully in this military-industrial takeover of basically the metaphor for the planet was, that they were destroying the planet for this unobtainium, and that's exactly what's happening here. But it took a lot to see what they were doing, and they weren't going to stop. It was all about death and destruction after a certain while, and it was...
The only way this stops is if we stop it. They are incapable of stopping themselves.
Oh, yes. Oh, totally.
The only way that stops is if we stop it, and we don't stop it by acting out violently, and I want to emphasize this. Violence is the problem.
Well, I agree.
Reacting violently only compounds the problem.
Well,
all these people out there who say, we got to take up arms, we got to have a militia.
No.
You know
what if we pull the plug on the economical part of it and stop buying all these products that are being hacked and shoved down our throats and the latest amazing machine that's going to make your life wonderful? If we simply turned off our televisions and stopped buying cars that aren't feasible for this planet, that use oil, if we stop buying things that have environmental impact, if we just stop buying things, period, wouldn't that?
Well, that's one of the things that's going to happen.
Well, it's going to have to happen.
Well, yes, if we're going to have any type of human or humane planet, the movement has already started in that direction. I see, and from the White Rose's perspective, there's a number of things that people can do, and a lot of people have already started doing. Withdraw your support from the military machine.
Right.
Don't send your sons and daughters to serve in the military.
Right.
Don't serve the military yourself.
Right.
Defund the United States government. Frankly, it's out of control.
Oh,
don't send money to the IRS. We need to have a national movement of people who just don't send money to the IRS anymore. They're willing to stand up and say, I've stopped sending money to the IRS because it's a criminal syndicate designed to take down this country, and
it's illegal. It's not even a legal enterprise.
Pull your money out of the big banks.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Pull it out.
If you have an account at the Bank of America, well,
leave $100 in there,
or not even that.
Let them play with that.
Pull it out of there.
I agree.
Don't pay back your federal student loan. I mean, they'll make all kinds of dire threats. We're going to throw you in jail, et cetera, et cetera. But from the standpoint of White Roses movement, the attitude has to be: this system is irretrievably corrupt. It runs off of stolen money. So just defund it. Start pulling money out of the system. And then there's room also for principled, nonviolent civil disobedience. And of course, that brings the risk of, jail or being
tasers,
all of that,
microwave weaponry, and all that. Yeah,
perhaps even being shot. But you know what? We saw an example of that in the 1950s and 60s in our country. And black people, and a lot of white people, too, went out by the thousands and committed civil disobedience. And if it weren't for that, we might still have racial segregation in this country today. And there were laws in many states in this country mandating racial segregation. And it was only when thousands of people, black people, but also a lot of white people, stood up.
Well, now the segregation is the rich people versus the poor people, and anybody with less than $500,000 is considered a poor person.
That's right. That's right. So
and we're being pushed into the third world so fast that we'll be on breadlines before you know it, and the super elite and the wealthy will be sitting there laughing. And
that's right. So the issue from the standpoint of the White Rose is, can we learn from Dr. King's example and what happened down south and also in other areas around the country in the 1960s and 1970s? Can we also, nonviolently, put ourselves in the line for redress of legitimate grievances? I think we better, Lance.
Well, yes, I agree, because I thought we were at the final last line about 6 or 7 years ago, and I can say honestly now, time has run out. We're at about 11:59 and 59 seconds. So, in fact, the show's at 11:59 and 59 seconds. So, you have you have about a minute to finish up any thoughts that you'd like to share with the listeners, and mention again what your site is. So.
Yes, well, people can go to keyholepublishing.com to find my books. They can also go to Amazon.com to find my books, both the Richard Sauder Briefing and also Hidden in Plain Sight, Beyond the X-Files. And I would say, you asked who finally is behind all of this? I don't know. Some people speculate that the control structure extends off the planet. I don't know if it does or it doesn't. For sure, we have a diabolical control structure on this planet.
No question about it.
It's seeking to enslave us, and the only way to make yourself free is to not cooperate. And I'm recommending nonviolent cooperation, because these diabolical beings feed off of violence.
They feed off of violence. Exactly.
It's like a narcotic to them. So don't give them their fix.
Don't give
them the luxury of acting out violently, because you only ensnare yourself more tightly in the nefarious plan of planetary control when you act violently. So be smart. Whatever you do, be nonviolent. That's our only way out.
And as Mayor Bahaba said, be happy.
Yeah.
Richard, you've been wonderful on the show tonight, and I highly encourage that people get your books and get up to speed, and you've done all the homework for us, so you've made it very easy, and it's an interesting and fascinating read.
No other author is covering a lot of this information that I'm covering.
Yeah, I applaud your work, and I'm so happy to see that somebody is out there speaking so openly about all this, and I look forward to reading your future works as well. And keep up the great work.
Thank you so much, Lance.
Thanks for being on the show.
Anytime.
All right. Good night, Richard, and good night, listeners. Stay tuned for Jim Gilliland at the ECETI Ranch. He probably has an interesting guest, lots of ships powering up. And thank you for listening, and this is a wrap. Good night, everybody.